host for the Musicians of Dystonia talk today. I'm back again today. I'm really excited because I have a really special guest here with me, and I have Miss Akiko Trush, and she's here to talk about her journey recovery from Focal Hand Dystonia. I know many of you have been inspired by her because you've written to me already saying, I'm so excited to see her. So welcome, Akiko.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. For those who are chiming in who are brass players or especially double reed players who might not have heard of Akiko, I just want to give a little bit of background on her so you understand a little bit about her. She got her bachelor's degree at Oberlin Conservatory and her master's of fine arts at Tulane University. She's participated in several festivals like the Camp Blossom Festival in Ohio, the Orford Summer Festival in Quebec, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Clurn International Music Festival in Italy. And she's had several teachers, and she's served as accompanist at many universities, and she's a practitioner herself. As well, she has her own group, the La Musique Bella, which she shares with her husband, Dimitri, on violin, which is amazing. And we're just so happy to have you here, Akiko. Let's go ahead and start off, and can you just tell us a little bit about your musical upbringing, what really got you to piano playing and passionate about it, kind of that kind of background influence?
Okay, yeah. So my family is originally from Tokyo, but I started my piano lessons when I was 5 years old in US. And I remember being the oldest of three siblings. I think I was, always playing to be the proper one, always that very understanding of my parents and listening to teachers. So I think that attitude kind of spilled out to my piano practice, which I think was a good thing. And I guess it wasn't until later that I did notice that piano is such a medium where I could really express my true nature beyond what I could express in daily life. So I think I appreciated the arts of music making from early on. And I love music, especially creating music and playing the piano. And my family eventually relocated back to Tokyo, where I continued my studies. And later I decided to go to the conservatory in US again.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love that that you're from Tokyo. You're so far away today that you had to join us like a whole day ahead of time just to be here. So thank you for doing that. It was a workout to figure out the time difference for me. I'm just glad I got it right today.
Yeah, I know. I'm at tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, Akiko, you were also very passionate about piano, and you went into studying it at the conservatory, and you came over to the U.S. to study it. What kind of and maybe this is more of a personal question, but what made you decide to come over to the U.S. to study at the conservatory?
It's quite interesting that you ask because I think I experienced quite of a cultural dissonance when my family relocated back to Tokyo. So I was used to one certain way of things, even though, I'm Japanese and my family's from Tokyo. I think I was accustomed to the, thinking and culture of the West in a way. And yes, I did go, but I felt a little bit uneasy growing up. I mean, being as a teenager in Tokyo, where I felt like, I was going through this big culture shock and I was trying to adjust into everything. And even the musical training in Tokyo that I experienced, the approach was quite different than what I was used to. And so when my parents started asking me what I like to do, I felt like I want to be, maybe distancing myself from the Japanese culture just for a little bit to readjust myself into both of the cultures. So I think that was my main thing when we kind of decided on having me go to a conservatory in US. But I'm really glad that I went. abroad again. And then now I'm back to Tokyo and I just feel quite whole.
That's good. I was gonna say, no matter where I feel like, well, for me, no matter how many places I've moved, I
Mhm.
now that I'm older, I'm like, oh my gosh, I realize how important home is and where you grew up and family,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Right. Uh-huh. And sometimes you gotta have to step away to see the whole picture. And I'm really glad I got to see the whole perspective of both cultures early on and got to adjust it through my adolescence.
Well, that's really great. And you had some really great music teachers as well that taught you. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, you started experiencing focal dystonia while you were at the conservatory, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. So it was my senior year of my conservatory years, and then after a big long summer break, where I felt like I have slacked off a little bit, and I was trying to catch up on being, just good again, right? So I remember I was practicing the Shostakovich piano concerto, and I was trying to nail the octaves part. Like there's this place where there's a lot of octaves in both hands. And I was trying so hard to just make that sound nice and crisp and just clear and forte and in the chops and at speed and maybe faster than I could possibly. I don't know. I was trying really hard to make it sound good. Forget about. I was trying so hard to catch up for some reason at that specific time because I had performances lined up. I also was I was going to participate in a concerto competitions and several auditions and so I think it was my ambitious time. um, I was feeling a little bit of ambitious of a lot of things, and I've noticed weakening. I couldn't grab the octave with my right hand one day as I was practicing. And so the key just slipped off from my thumb. And then I kind of felt weird because it felt kind of funny. My hand felt really funny. And so that's the first thing that I experienced. It just kind of felt funny as though, I don't know if you experience it, but when you laugh so hard and that you kind of lose all your muscles in your whole body just because you laugh so hard, and then you're trying to pick something up with your hands, but it's just not, listening to what you're trying to do. Just kind of felt that way, but I thought, oh, okay, well, this is what I get for not slacking off the whole summer. Maybe I should do a little bit more. So of course, we practice more, we try harder, right?
Mhm.
And then I remember by the end of the week, I couldn't do anything on it anymore. I lost it all. Not even, I couldn't open my hands. I couldn't play. I mean, I couldn't move I just couldn't do anything on the piano. I tried to play a simple C, D, E, F, G with my 5-finger position. And it's just, I just couldn't do it anymore. It just won't happen. And I got to the point that when I tried to put my hand on the keyboard, my whole right hand was like this. And I think yeah, I had a tremendous tension in my thumb muscle here. So I'll be playing and then my thumb will tense up like this. And then this index finger will shoot out. And then, eventually I was just in my fist like that.
Oh no. So then
Yeah.
when you're playing and you first started feeling this symptoms is kind of sluggish feeling,
Yeah.
did you first experience it then in your thumb then, or was it kind of like more curling of the fingers or?
Oh, no. My thing was my thumb. It's the thumb area. I mean, the common problem of pianists with focal dystonia is the curling of these fingers, or a lot more of the middle finger sometimes. Yes, there are some cases, but a little less of the thumb, but still, yeah, my symptom was like the thumb going in like this.
Oh my
Going
goodness.
in.
I'm so
Right.
sorry.
And it'll tense up. Yeah, well, I was sorry back then too.
Yeah, I know how you feel though. It's one of those things that sneaks up on you and it just gets worse and it's like, oh, how do you even
Yeah,
reverse this?
so yes, exactly. It just went, whew, yeah, it was really bad. Mhm.
Well, I have quite a few people watching, and hi guys. I'll try to wave to most of you if I can, and then David, I can't ever pronounce your name, David. He's joined us. He's watched quite a few videos, and he's just saying hello to us. So hello, everybody that's waving hello to you. Thank you so much. And then Akiko, when you started experiencing the symptoms, I'm sure as soon as it got really bad, you were like, oh my gosh, this is not good. What do I do? Did you know what focal dystonia was, or did you go to anyone or hear of it?
This was back 15 or 16 years ago. I can't keep track of it anymore. But of course, I asked my teachers and all the teachers in the piano department back then. Nobody knew what it was. But then I did go to eventually did go to the hand clinic in Cleveland. And I think I got diagnosed with focal dystonia in a year. I think it took me a whole year to figure out what it was.
Oh my gosh. I know it took me a year too. It took me a year to just
really? Yeah, and then I remember it was quite frustrating because maybe I thought it was, something going on psychologically. I did go through the counselor, and everybody said, well, it sounds like you're going through a stress of not being able to play, but they couldn't figure out how it would affect my, just one little focal part of my hand, right? So yes, it did take me a while.
And did you deal with a lot of like since you were in school, did you have a lot of people trying to fix it with technique? Like they're like, you just need to, massage your hand or relax or something like?
Yes. Well, I have a really nice French teacher, which was very strong spirited as well. And I think she didn't know what to do, and she didn't know how to advise me either. And so she just suggested, hey, why don't you just take off for, one semester? So I did, which just didn't work. And then after I had been feeling so sorry for myself, and we, went over all the left-hand repertoire there is for piano, and I was still feeling so low and bad. And then one day she's like, you know what? This is your fault. You have to take your own responsibility. And I was like, whoa, it was such a big shock for me, because back until then she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? Is there anything that we could do to make make it better? What do you think will help me? And I think she tried in her own means everything that she could possibly can to kind of assist me. But then, she just, I think, looking back, I think she just decided that was not working for me. So she was like, no, that's it. You got to fix it by yourself now. So I was like, whoa, yeah, it was quite shocking. But she was, as a very strong spirited person, and I really respect her as a person and a musician. But then she told me, I cured my own cancer. So she went on about how she treated. She just completely eliminated her cancer without any treatment, like this, traditional medical treatment.
Oh my
And
God.
she says, yeah, it was back then. And she did all the, supposed natural approach that, I think from what I understood from what she told me, she went from a stage 4 cancer into complete remission, meaning, there's nothing left that anybody could detect. She's like, okay, well, if you set your mind, if you really want it, there's no way you can't do it. So, in my mind, I was like, what is this crazy person telling me to do? I'm still, the victim. But I think that was my first wake-up call when she said, we can't do anything for you. Nobody can do anything for you. You just got to do something on your own. So yeah, it took me a while for that idea to set me, but I kind of knew that was my only path at that moment. So I think I had no choice but to take it. And as you know, I felt like I tried all the I felt back then as though I tried everything. Of course, I tried the Botox, I tried all the medicines, I tried acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractic, counseling, and all of that led Well, maybe at least, I mean, I felt better after I had my chiropractic adjustment, but it just didn't do, get to the core, point of making the symptoms slightly or even slightly better.
Yeah. I know how you feel because I got embouchure dystonia while I was finishing up I was doing my undergrad and I was
Mm.
finishing up my undergrad and got it and within it was my what was I guess my junior year. So I still had a year left of college and it was really crazy. And my teacher
Yeah.
did the same thing too. She got to the point where she's like, I you have to go get help or you have to find
Mhm.
someone because I'm out of options. I don't know what else we can do. You just can't get
Yeah.
a sound out, and I don't know what it is. She's like, I'm sorry.
Right.
And I was
Mhm.
like, oh gosh. And I had just actually been reading an article over focal dystonia like a year prior to when I got it. And I remember reading through it and being like, oh my gosh, I hope I never end up with something. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
as it the name, I was like, oh no, like it can't be this. But yeah, I
Oh,
ended up
yeah.
being that.
And
But
then no, as you know, Katie, like Japan had been has been a pioneer of the brain surgery, for as a treatment of focal dystonia. And back then, they didn't, of course, they didn't offer me, but then I would have been the first one to say, yes, yes, please sign me up tomorrow already, because I feel like I tried everything. Yeah, so I am not against the surgery at all because I could understand where like musicians they might be coming from, and I also think that the surgery could in the best case scenario aid the retraining.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm one of those people where I'm like, everybody has their own pathway, and if they decide to go that route and that's what's best for them and it works, then by all means, I'm not going to judge them for it. They're doing what helps themselves, and they know their body better than anyone else, and their pathway better than anyone else. So when you got dystonia, where did you go? I mean, since you ended up trying to figure things out by yourself, you obviously found a way to retrain your hand because you made so many wonderful videos over retraining strategies and you help others now. There's been so many people impacted by you. Can you kind of discuss what are the common challenges you come across with others or even with your own hand when you're retraining? What are some common challenges of retraining that you come across?
Uh, the common challenge, well, that's a good question. I think the most challenging thing of this condition is that you can't get because you're so trapped inside your body and your sensations, you just cannot, it's very, very hard to have a perspective of things because what I think what focal dystonia is. It might be a little bit different from the, like say the Wikipedia definition of what the focal dystonia is. So the Wikipedia definition of focal dystonia says it's a neurological condition, right? It's a type of dystonia that affects a muscle or a group of muscles in a specific part of body and causing involuntary muscle contraction and abnormal posture. But that's just the symptom, right? This is the symptom, the byproduct of the condition. And what I think what focal dystonia is a temporary state of a body. It's a temporary state of a body that has chosen to disassociate one area of the body from the cognitive body image. And I could try to explain about this a little later. So what we all experience, like the loss of control, the excessive tension, the awkward sensation and the confusions, the confusions that we experience, that's just a byproduct of the states. So I think that part is a little confusing because I'll try to explain what it is. Musicians with focal dystonia often explain the sensations and the outcome of their performances as though we've forgotten how to play the instrument, right? It's almost as though we've forgotten how to play the instrument, but it feels like that. it only feels like that. But we have not forgotten how to play the instrument. In fact, our memory, I don't know if it's contained only in our brain or elsewhere, but our memory is just fine. Our data, like the memory bank on how we always have done something, is there. It's all there. It's just perfect. The reason why it feels like we have forgotten how to play the instrument is because, of course, the excessive tension creates the outcome that we don't intend, right? But if we back up even further, even when you don't have experienced the full-blown tension, the sensation, the senses are off, right? The sensory feedback, which is the system that we rely on in order to bridge the present condition and environment to our big memory data on how to play the instruments, a bit out of order. So yeah, the memory is fine. Our ability to sense the present condition accurately is twisted. And therefore we have trouble accessing that memory bank, which we constantly check in by the microsecond to relate to the present moment. So say, Katie, if you touch something, your cells are activated to gather information. Like say, if you touch this pencil, right? Your cells is activated to gather information, and some that information such as the texture and the temperature of it and the object and how our body is positioned, like how each of our body parts is related to each other, to the central nervous system. So it gathers and sends information to let our operational system understand what our body is doing and how our body is doing at every split present moment. So the sensory feedback is there so we can experience life and to understand our body, but without without all that proper information on how and what our body is doing in the present moment. We have nothing. We have nothing that pairs up the current situation to the past memory. So when that happens, we're just basically lost in terms of movement. And if the sensation, if the sensation doesn't remind you of something familiar, and that sensation doesn't match with any of your past experiences, we're just, have nothing to anchor in order to move, so to speak, right? So basically, when your sensations don't match your memory or your movement, we're just in a twilight zone. It's just basically in the big unknown. And then, the tricky thing, quite ironically, is the memory that we have, the memory that's working just fine. Remember how it's supposed to feel and how exactly we're supposed to move. Although you might not feel like you know it anymore, but you still know it. It's just there. And then so in the pursuit of trying to feel something closer to how you remember while trying to perform a task that you know so well and so skillfully mastered, our subconscious mind just tries to they help us by tensing and misaligning our body, changing the contact points and angle and pressure to the instrument and all that, even if that's very abnormal and off positioning, because at least you're feeling something, right? At least you're sending back something to your operational system. But
yeah, we really begin to compensate or make compensating movements to adjust to the lack of a balance or sensation that's not there.
Right, right. And of course, this just further enhances the downward spiral of the dystonic response, right? And, by no time we habitualize the dystonic response so well, that we even get more confused and tense.
Yeah.
And, we know the rest, yeah?
Yeah, I completely agree with you with everything you're saying. Quick shout out to everyone that's joining. John McCarthy, thank you for joining. He says, excellent. Thank you, Katie and Kiko, for doing this. Julie Baxis is watching, who's a trumpet player with cervical dystonia. And she says, hi, Kiko. I know she's reached out to you before and you actually gave her some really helpful advice to try and lay on her back and play her trumpet and see if that helped. And that did. It was a sensory trick. It helped her. She was able to, she realized she could play well in that position. So a huge thank you there for you as well. Andrea Brockfield, who I did an interview with yesterday, has joined us, the flute player with Focal Hand Dystonia. She's recovered from it as well. So she's watching as well. Thank you, everybody that's just joining. If you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in at any time, or if you just want to say hello too. So Akiko, I really love that you're talking about this, about how we've kind of lost the way to connect our memory to what we're doing. And what I like is that in some of your videos, you kind of talked about this, finding the stimulus that caught, well, not just finding stimuluses, but also finding ways of, how do I say it, reassociating the hand with the body, because, and I think this is really interesting. How do I describe this? I did an interview with David Leisner, who's a guitar player who overcame focal hand dystonia. And he talks, he calls it misuse, instead of, he says, it's not overuse, it's misuse. So he talks about focusing on going back to the larger muscle groups in playing guitar and realigning the body to use, because he said sometimes we get so focused on just the fingertips in our playing, and we have to go back to just our whole arm, our whole upper body, and getting back to that connection of movement that's tied into the whole body and not just this little tiny area. So I really love that, the video that you did over that. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you're talking about the broken wrist syndrome. I know that you did a whole video over that. So if you guys want to watch that, you can. And can you just tell us a little bit about the retraining strategies that you do? And I know that's a big, broad question, like, but is there any areas that you want to kind of cover a little bit for people?
Yes, so, going back to your question on, what's the most challenging aspect of retraining is just, the sensations and the match outcome is completely different, right? But if you go back, come down to why and what's really actually going on. If I understand, as I said at the very beginning, I understand focal dystonia as a state of a body that has chosen to disassociate one area of the body from the body image. So when when we talk about body image, we just talk about, I don't know, like in a social context of, if you have a healthy body image, you're more confident, and if you're not, you're not. And, we tend to associate body image problem as, for example, like an eating disorder, when, obviously I think it has some kind of neurological problem in that too, where, what you perceive yourself, your perception of your own body doesn't really match the reality, right? And so, with you just, you're talking about Mr. David Leisner's, the big muscle approach, just ties in with, maybe chiming in and restructuring your body image. Because look, if you look at your 5 fingers, I mean, if you look at your hand or you look at your face, I see 5 fingers and I understand that there are 5 fingers, but how this image of my hand is constructed inside my head, or where we store memory, might not just completely align from, this, because how we use and how we experience and what we pay attention to is, is drawing and constructing our body image, right? So if you're always playing, for example, if you're a pianist, and then if you're not paying attention to any other areas of your body while you're playing it, then the body image of precisely that, maybe your shoulder or your arm or your elbow, and it's a little bit loose. And if pianists tend to over focus on what's going on in the fingertips, of course we have, big data on what our fingertips feels like, but not so much of our, the rust and everywhere else, and our, our head and our back. And so my approach to retraining is just that I'm trying to rebuild. It's trying to rebuild the body, cognitive body image of ourselves playing the instrument. And I think the body images, it could be, we have a vague understanding on what a body image is, but I think it comes down to the most microest of the micro world. And I'll try to explain what it is. So if I'm holding a pencil now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to, at one point, I couldn't hold a pencil either. It was just, I'll be tensing up and it will just slip off because my hand was so tense, right? So I understand folks with the cramp, a writer's cramp, because I think essentially if I didn't play the piano, that's what they diagnosed me of, the writer's cramp. But say there's a pencil, right? And through holding this pencil, I am right now constructing a body image of me holding the pencil. And that involves my whole, like how my body is aligned, what my, my shoulders, my, arm, my wrist, my elbow, and everything else is doing at that time when I'm trying to think of writing. And then also the contact point, if I pay attention to the contact point of all the, where the pencil kind of contacts my skin, right? If this pencil was blue, covered in blue paint, I would just have a blue paint where the pencil was. Now I'm feeling the pencil with just that part of my body. And so I have an understanding of how this place on my thumb feels against the pencil, right? And so, but then with the twisted state of focal dystonia, we might, like, this was my problem too. I couldn't feel the pencil in a way that I used to before. It just felt awkward. And maybe with, folks with embouchure dystonia, like something against the mouth wouldn't feel the same. We explain it's like something against the mouth and the lips, and there's some parts of the face just doesn't feel exactly how I used to. But
exactly.
Hand dystonia, you try to hold a pencil and then you don't know, how you're holding a pencil because you're not retrieving the sensory feedback, right? So, but then the interesting part of all of this, the interesting part of all of this is that once you align your body the way it's intended to do, and your body just so naturally knows if you're not going to be in your own way, right? And so you're not tensing, or you're not sticking your elbow out. You're trying to naturally align your body, and this might be easier said than done because you're having conflicting messages inside your body. But that now, once you find it, and you'll find it if you just wait long enough, and you try to sense the pencil again, right? And you try to sense the pencil. You're going to have an awkward sensation, but you're going to have to feel what it feels like here, and feels like right there, and feels like right there, and how the table feels on the part of your pinky, and how you're laying your whole arm. And once you start feeling what's going on magically, and it feels like magically, the tension subsides. So it almost feels like, the body is trying so hard to find its missing parts and counterparts, right? Once it finds the thumb, at least here, finds the index finger here and there, you find it by touching and, activating the sensory input. And magically, it feels okay. And then the tension, the mixed signal kind of starts calming down. And then you'll find your body and your mind kind of finds a way to calm down. So
yeah, I think that's really amazing what you're saying, and it relates to a lot of what I've gone through too. Because I haven't made like a full recovery, but I always tell people like around 70%, because I in an orchestra again. I can play in a local orchestra and gig around. I play in a brass quintet now. So I'm playing again, but it's not complete 100%. But I have the same type of concept, and Dave is commenting on here, and he said, and this relates to what I went through too. He says He said, "Thank you, Akiko. That's what you're describing is the basis for body mapping, an Alexander technique."
Yes.
And I was the same way because I realized when I pick up my horn and I go to bring it up to my face, my brain is already going to, I'm playing the horn.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if this signal is messed up, how can I reestablish a foundation to build from where it's not going to do this every time I go to play? And I kind of thought of the image of, you know, how when you get in your car in the garage and you go to back it out, and you somehow have this perception of how big your car is when you're backing out. You just know how far away your car is from each side of the garage wall, and you can adjust that, otherwise you'd run into it. And over time, you get so used to that awareness because your brain is clumping in the car as a part of your body. You get in the car, it's like, okay, this car is an extension of your body now. I know exactly how to perceive how big it is and how to not run into things. And so I thought, well, isn't this the same with the horn? Like I bring the horn up and my body's attaching the horn to my lips. It's an extension of my lips. So how do I reassociate my embouchure in a way that starts to engage all my muscles and not just this one little area? So I did kind of similar thing like you did. I just watched your video over how you had your baby with you. You said how a baby can help you recognize hand movement, natural hand movement. And I did the same thing too. I thought, well, when a child blows out a candle, like if you say, "Hey, blow out your birthday candle," like a child goes, they puff their cheeks and they just naturally blow out air. The most efficient way their body feels is natural. But for brass players, we're conditioned to play in this very kind of set way where we go and we set our embouchure. And it's so if somebody said, "Katie, blow out that birthday candle," I would go, and it would be downstream because I'm used to playing downstream into my mouthpiece. And I thought, I have to do something about this where I can kind of trick my brain in a way to go in a different direction and reset my muscle groups so I can use bigger muscle groups. And it's a very similar concept. So I think that's really fantastic. And it's helped a lot of people. And it's like you're saying, like it takes awareness of each, you know, every little muscle to regain that whole sensation to come back. Because if you're just focusing on the one little area where you can't feel it, it's gonna stay that way.
Most of the time it gets worse. Like if a pianist will focus just on the fingertips, or guitars will just focus just on the finger where it just contacts the strings, and then the whole, I would say, the whole other part of your body, you're just basically a transparent ghost in your body image, because now you kind of know what this part might feel like, right? But then if you're not associating the whole body, I think we're just made to be lost because we just don't function that way.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree there with you. Thank you for discussing so much. And I really like how you teach people a lot about how to open up their hand, because I know a lot of people with hand dystonia, like you said, it comes in different forms, but a lot of people have the one where their middle fingers curl under when they play. And you've been able to help people learn how to open up their hand again through retraining on like just how to on a computer board. Are there any other types of manipulatives you've used to kind of help retrain the hand movement?
Okay. With the hand, and I'm not really sure how this will relate to embouchure, but with the hand dystonia, since you could actually see the action with your hands, right? I try to explain that what they feel, where they feel natural is just quite, they're in a minus state. Now, when we talk about focal dystonia, we tend to focus on the excessive tension and curling of, maybe in the case of a hand dystonia, a finger might curl in like this. We experience a big tension, right, of the hand muscle right there. Or in the case of, like me, if you have a thumb dystonia, you experience a lot of tension here. But what we don't perceive is the muscles that we are, the body has chosen to ignore, which is, what we call the extensor muscles, the force that we need to keep our hand open. And there's, other, I've seen hand dystonia where they have this reverse, where they can't keep the hand closed. In other words, the fingers just flying open all the time, like that.
Oh, wow.
Right. So there is a reverse case as well. But then in most cases, I think it's, the opposite of the curling, because, this extensor part is, completely lost. And so if you would ask, I'm just, demonstrating with my, these two muscles, because it's just easier to see on the screen. If you would ask a pianist with these two hands curling to be in a natural place, I think over time, naturally, it'll start dipping like this. And because the muscle here is just not awake as much as the muscles, the tensing muscles here. So what I try to remind musicians of, or myself too, and how I retrain myself, is just I would have to constantly remind that myself that we need just a little bit more effort to keep the hand just in a neutral 0 point, because what might feel like a natural relaxed state is not actually in the state where we want to be. It's just actually minus. This is too much of a plus. But if we want to be there, and then if you ask a pianist with a dystonia to be there, they'll naturally dip a little bit. So just precisely this much of an effort is needed in order to kind of awaken the lost parts of the body that we were talking about. So with the focal hand dystonia, and maybe we could kind of try this together. But if somebody would have, and I cannot maneuver this camera, but if you ask, for example, a pianist who has a curling of these two fingers to lift these three fingers up on a flat surface like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll compare to the other hand, say this is the healthy hand and this is the dystonic hand. To do the same thing with the dystonic hand, the musician might experience a lot significantly more effort in order to keep the same position, right? And so whatever it does, even when you're trying to use those muscles, it just doesn't feel right, because you feel like you shouldn't be using so much force. But it's not force, it's actually, a little bit of plus extra effort that you have to recognize and start using and activating in order to start, for the body to start understanding the lost images, so to speak. So with folks with hand dystonia, it took me, Katie, it took me like maybe a whole 10 years to figure out how to exactly retrain. But if I were to retrain, today, if I would have the same condition I had, and then if I would have to retrain right now with the knowledge that I have today, I think it would be, maybe a matter of a few months that I could do it. And this is, because now I kind of know what exactly, it takes and what works and what just didn't work. I've lost a lot of time trying to, figure things out on my own. And of course, with a lot of, different information and advices, I think it took me a while. But if somebody would effectively and efficiently try to recall that images in a way that's, very specific to their symptom, I think they could recover really, really fast. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
What are some I agree with all that, all the stuff you're saying. I relate to it so much. I just keep thinking about the things I've gone through. And I know it seems weird because it's like I have embouchure dystonia. It's like, is that similar? But it's just the concepts are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And what are kind of, and maybe this is hard to describe or demonstrate, but what are some common compensating moves you kind of see people do when they're trying to train, like maybe things they should try to avoid?
I think, okay, well, if you think in terms of a pianist, right? Well, because I think that I could explain, the best about piano playing. regarding piano players, I think the most amount of compensate, like there's compensating positions, and then of course like there's like different compensating positions and movements. But I think it all comes down to your body trying to be where it's comfortable, right? And what the body perceives comfortable might not be, the actual normal, or natural position. And let's see, I could demonstrate on something. So if this will be a good piano position from looking from your side, and I often catch myself, even when I tried to put my hand in a natural position like this, I would notice me doing like this, sticking out my elbow, and I'll be playing my left hand's here and right hand's just like that, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow.
And it just kind of really, it was a mystery for a big, long time. It was a big mystery. But eventually I did figure out that my hand just didn't want to be right there. Yeah, because my shoulders and my elbows, and of course I had like a tremendous tension that ran through my whole, my arm and my shoulder at one point. But then, basically my problem was in my hands. And so I shouldn't have had any necessity of doing this, right?
Yeah.
But my fingers wanted to feel the key in this direction, not here. Where, most of the time when you, position and align yourself in front of the keyboard, and then when you try to put your hand naturally on the keyboard, we have a very natural slanted position, that kind of mirrors like a V if you look at the left hand, right hand. My hand just doesn't want to be there. And because of these awkward sensation, like my thumb and my index finger didn't like to be feeling, this specific contact point against the keyboard. So my body unconsciously tries to avoid being here and starts doing this, right? And then it just kind of raises my elbow. So I tried to put my elbow down, like it just release my whole right. It just didn't work until I understood, oh, okay, well, just my hand just doesn't want to be here. It just wants to be feeling instead of, just placing the hand on the keyboard like this, just normal, just placing, it just wants to like kind of squeeze and curl and, feel excessive pressure because it just didn't feel right, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so this is, I think, a common pianist problem. They want to, raise the elbow. It's not an elbow problem, but it's just the sensory problem, the hand and finger sensory problem in disguise.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I feel like in brass players, it shows up in our neck a lot, our neck positioning, and also our breathing, oddly enough, our breathing. And I really love everything that you're talking about. I mean, it's so helpful, and thank you again, because I feel like this helps so many people, and your videos already have helped so many people. So thank you so much for doing this again. And this is more, I guess, a kind of a deeper question. Do you ever feel like, maybe a person isn't ready to retrain because they're not in the right mental space yet, or they're because we do have a lot of the psychological, emotional stuff, baggage, and just the grief to process, to go through at first to even be in a place to retrain. What would you suggest for musicians who are kind of have a little bit difficulty, just having the confidence to get into retraining?
This is really tough, really, really tough. But having somebody or a community or somebody who kind of understand and supports you along the way is like a big thing. And I think I've mentioned this in one of my posts. I used to host a lot of musicians with dystonia meetings, like real life meetings in Tokyo, where, just random, I'll just put up a board on, just asking if musicians, with dystonia would want to just congregate and just share their experiences. So I would have like somewhere between 10 to 12 musicians at a time, and when we all sit in a big circle, and then we just introduce ourselves, and then they'll just talk about our experiences, and then we just exchange, ideas. But it's really interesting because for a lot of these musicians, and maybe it's kind of a cultural thing as well in Japan, and most part of it, this Asian part of the world, that's for a lot of these musicians, their first time ever sharing their experiences and their difficulties and their heart to other people, right? Because we're just we're so closed, and there's a lot of shame and guilt, and that goes around having it. And so they, when you're not feeling accepted and open, and by members around you, just tend to kind of close in. But with this, the meeting that I hosted, sometimes a year, I mean, it's like, the first time ever that the musicians might open up to somebody else, not even just another musician, like somebody else, right? And then they feel a big, big relief. Of course, they do it, maybe they do it anonymously online, but then, just being there in real life, and it's ironic that we're talking about it because this wouldn't happen. But it's just, just being there, just being for each other, and just voicing our experiences, and just knowing that there are others who are, went through or going through or have went through the same experiences. I think it really, really helps. And magically, after those meetings, I swear there's among 10 to 12 of the musicians who do participate, always like 2 or 3 will email me like that afternoon, or the next day, saying, hey, you're just not going to believe what happened. I just don't have any symptoms today. I went back and just went to my instrument and just didn't have any symptoms. Of course, it comes back because it's temporary, but just the comfort of being able to be out there with other musicians who are accepting, right? And where they could share their experiences in the safe environment, have really maybe lowered their guard, so to speak. So yes, I think having a community is really, really important. And the sense of being supported by somebody, sense of being understood, I think it's important. And that's why, yeah, Katie, what you're doing here, I want to congratulate you too. You're doing us a big favor. You are, spreading the awareness and voice, and really, really, I think we all appreciate it. So it's really, really tough. It's really, really tough because a lot of times we feel misunderstood, and it's a lonely, lonely journey. And then you felt like you were somebody before, and then you feel like you're somebody else, right? Yeah. And then there's a lot of soul searching that you go through. And I always, I meet all these musicians, and I'm very, very inspired by everybody going through the process of, just becoming a better version of themselves, even though it just doesn't feel like it. When I at my worst time, I just felt like, oh, I'm just gonna give up, everything altogether. But there's always, a better side of it at, closer to the end. So.
Yeah, there's definitely a silver lining to it all. Even if, some people can't see it at the time, there's always a little bit of gifts involved in having this big of a setback, and I agree. And thank you for your kind comments. I mean, one of the reasons I'm doing this is to raise awareness, and I'm hoping that, especially one day, especially musicians who don't know what dystonia is or have never experienced it, comes across one of these videos and watches it, and they might see somebody someday that says, I have vocal dystonia, and they're like, oh my gosh, I watched a video of this person talking about it, and I even though I don't understand it completely, I completely relate, because I heard someone speak about it. Like, I actually heard someone speak about it, like not just write about it, but actually people conversing about it. And I think it will help a lot, you know, just to kind of break down that stigma. And I hope it will just in a little bit, you know, it's hard to make positive change. It takes a lot of people to do it. So I'm just really grateful for everybody who's been doing this. It's just amazing. So.
And I guess enjoy, I mean, it's very, I mean, it's really hard to do, but if you could find any bit of enjoyment, you know, in all of this, any bit of gratitude of having it, I think it will really help, because there's always the brighter side of, the better side of any situation. It's really hard to say, you know, to anyone who's, you know, at the bottom point of the struggle, but they're actually, I think this whole, the condition kind of forces us to see the better side of everything.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh my gosh. Well, and I know going through this yourself and recovering is such a huge inspiration to everyone. When you started to get back into piano playing and actually playing like works again, and it was no longer, you know, you weren't completely, your brain didn't completely go to, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my hand? And you started to be able to play again. Was there anything at that point in time that helped you out to keep your progress going, or that kind of validated, yes, I'm doing really good, and this is stable, it's sticking, it's not going away?
Right. Yeah. So I think I always tell people, it's the hardest part of the recovery is at the very beginning, until you start experiencing changes, and at the very end, where you just, you know, gonna determine that's, oh, you're just fully done. And because at the very beginning, it's, you know, it's really difficult to experience change until you've experienced that change, right? And then it's also, you know, difficult at the end, because you feel like you've recovered, but then, you know, different environment, different, you know, stimuli, like different, you know, like maybe you're just not feeling well, or you just had, you know, too much or too little of a sleep, or you just ate the wrong thing, you know, any kind of that environmental change kind of, you know, even in normal time, like normal healthy musician, affects their performance. And it does even more so for the recovering and recovered musicians. And so I think the point is that after you feel like you're, you know, achieved a certain level, you just have to expose yourself to different environments, like, you know, just playing in different places, you know, explore the temperature, and then your like nervous state, like depending on your nervous state, it might be different. If you're feeling stressed about it, if you're overly excited, or you just, you know, can't bring yourself up to like being excited about playing. I mean, all of this gradation of what you call the environment that you create from your perception, you know, you just kind of have to experience it all in order to be okay, you know, just kind of okay with all of those situations. So yeah, after you feel like you've, you know, you're recovered, you still need to, like, you know, expose yourself to different environments and see if you could, you know, maybe gain some more experience, so you could gain even more confidence.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like calming your nervous system down and finding ways to continually do that helps a lot, especially if you take the leap back into playing publicly. It's a huge thing to focus on. And I don't know what it was like for you, but when I did my first orchestra, I kind of bit off more than I could chew at first, because I had someone contact me, and it was for a orchestra in Colorado that was a much more advanced level of playing. It wasn't amateur level. It was definitely like, okay, I'm getting paid really well for this. And I was subbing for someone, and I took it because I thought, okay, you know, it's on fourth horn, it's lower, I'll be able to hide a little bit more, but I'll be playing with amazing musicians, so this will be a really great experience. And went to do it, and I kid you not, they chose like pieces where the fourth horn was really prominent. Like, I mean, like there's solos, or, you know, just out there playing, like we're playing Pines of Rome and Strauss's last four songs, and it was just all of a sudden it was like, oh boy, like like what am I doing? But and the first and when I actually got back into playing just an amateur level orchestra, it helped a lot, because I definitely had people that kind of brought to my attention that what I view as not so good playing, they
Yeah.
view it as really good playing. They're like, I don't know what's wrong with you because I don't hear anything wrong with you. You sound
Yeah.
completely
Mhm.
fine. Like, we can't even tell. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, because I feel like, you feel every little, if you're just slightly off that day, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I'm having a little bit of relapse. And I think realizing this over time, that our concept of how we sound has to change as well. We have to be willing to embrace the way we sound and really
Mhm.
love it, even if it doesn't feel that great right here.
Right, right, right. That's yeah. Yeah, it might just, you might sound really well, right? And then you might even look like you're doing really well. But then if you don't feel like you're doing the right thing, like, you have your sensation is off, you just don't feel like you're doing the right thing, it's still, you just don't feel good, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but I think again, as long as you keep on doing, you keep on doing those performances, you just kind of, get used to the environment as well. And, you, over time, I think it was a gradual process for me as well. Over time, it just kind of, just fades away as long as you keep on having a good, um, positive, what do you call it, attitude. And it's really, really difficult because when you're not feeling well, it's very, very difficult to keep your positive attitude. But you try to make sense of what happened later, right? And then you want to maybe create a good story about what happened.
Mhm.
And just try to make that into a good experience, in your memory bank again later. Because what we perceive good, we would want to do it again, right? What we perceive was awful, your body starts rebelling against it again.
Yeah, really good advice. I mean, really, really great advice, and words of wisdom.
Mm,
Um, viewing yourself as a survivor and not a victim of this type of setback helps too. And
mhm,
I think for many other things too. Um, and I know that I'm going back to something really quick, and I know I'm holding you over time, but it's just so great talking to you, and you're so easy to talk to. I know before we started, you're like, I'm so terrible at speaking. It's like, what? You like are so good at the videos, and you word things so well that in a way that I never could be able to. Um, but
yeah, yeah, that's my self-perception of me being horrible at things, it's still it's kind of there.
it's like
Yeah.
introverts, they think they're the like I was with an introvert before, and he'd always say like, yeah, I'm just not good with people, but people just gravitated towards him, like, just loved him. So but yeah, going back to like how you were saying, like, you got this group together of musicians with dystonia, and you sat in a circle and talked, and it really helped. I think this is such a good thing to do and to start doing if people are able to, in a large enough community of musicians, and not just with musicians with focal dystonia, but musicians in general. I actually had the great experience of when I went to graduate school at University of Colorado Boulder. I was doing music education. I decided to go down that route, and they had a music wellness program there, and it basically was the I think it was the guitar professor or the oboe professor, I can't remember, oboe professor, and he hired this counselor that worked at the university, and he would hold sessions every Friday where musicians could come, and we'd sit in a circle, and we
Oh.
would just talk about uh, anything that was bothering us with our playing, and working on our like you said, our self-image.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised how many musicians, even not with an injury, just regular musicians, struggle a lot with liking the way they sound and liking the way they perform. They're so
Mhm.
harsh on themselves,
Mhm.
and I think this is just something really important to start implementing, and I hope that that this inspires some people out there to do this as well, because I mean, I think what you did was really fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it starts with early education of kids. And this is, I mean, I have some young students as well. Not many, not so many anymore, but this is what I particularly try to be very, very aware and be careful when we are, or we're doing our parts of as educators. We just want to make sure that they are not too self-critical of themselves, right? It's very different. It's a very different thing to have a critical, point of a critical view of your playing, which really helps on, maybe fixing a lot of things. But then that you can't really overlap of, being critical of your personality, right? And so I think a lot of musicians have this kind of overlap where they're very very critical of their playing and they're very very critical of themselves. So this is, I think, where the danger kind of lies.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the musicians that do get dystonia, we tend to be, A-type personalities, very perfectionist and really, striving to sound our best and be our best and have that validation, So I completely agree. So I know that I'm holding you over time, but I just want to go ahead and check and see here really quick. Yosef Tamir says, amazing. Thank you so much, you guys, to both of you, Kenny and Akiko, for this. Thank you so much. And we have quite a few people watching right now. So thank you everybody else who's been waving and joining and continually waving at me. It always goes to my inbox. So I'm constantly checking the live stream comments and my inbox like at the same time, because I'll just have random people wave to me and I'll be like, why are they waving at me? I'm like, oh, they have the option on the live stream. Okay. So Akiko, it's just been so amazing talking to you and about your recovery and being a practitioner yourself. I know that you help a lot of people as well. So anybody that is in Tokyo or anywhere near there, I'm sure you also do Skype as well. If you want to ask Akiko, is it okay if they ever reach out to you?
Oh yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, just even if you have a quick question. I know I've been very, very, very guilty of not getting back to everybody. And I've been, it's just been on my to-do list for a long time to make another video update. And so this kind of have helped me, getting back on track. But yes, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to share, or just you want to just say hi to me, yeah, please do get in touch with me.
Well, thank you, Akiko. And I really honor your journey as a musician and everything you've accomplished, and as well as overcoming focal dystonia and just going through that process as well, because I know it's not difficult for all of us. But thank you for going through that and taking what you've gone through and using it to help others. It means a lot. So thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you, Katie, for doing this video interview for all of us.
Oh, you're welcome, Akiko. So what I'll do is we'll go ahead and log off now, but I'll go ahead and I'm going to upload it to YouTube and send you a link so you'll have access to this video as well. Oh, cool. And if I have anybody that sent in questions in my inbox, I'll go ahead and forward them to you, because sometimes they send them privately, and I want to make sure it's not public if they don't want it public. So sure. So thank you, Akiko, so much, and I hope you stay safe and have a really great morning there, right? Yeah, morning. Afternoon.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome, Akiko.